What up? What up? What up? It's your man Sean P coming in live. This the Sean P experience, man. How y'all doing out there? I have such a pleasure today. One of my favorite guests. We have like 4 or 5 different lives that we've done in the past. The first time gracing the YouTube experience, the Sean P experience. How you doing today, my sister?
I am doing wonderful, Sean. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now it's time for your official introduction. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sit back for this. Today, Tonight, we sit down with a literary force who doesn't just write stories, she set pages on fire. She is the author of Smoke, a Hitman melody, and the Outlaw Fire's Symphony, two explosive tales that blend grit, rhythm, romance, and raw reality like jazz in the back alley, smooth in parts, daily in others. A. Lewis doesn't play it safe. She pins bold men, dangerous women, and plot lines that don't flinch. Her stories drip with atmosphere and move like a bullet with a poet's soul behind the trigger. She's a self-published powerhouse, creative visionary, and part of the storytelling duo with her wonderful husband, the velvety voice narrator who breathes life into her words. We are here to talk process, power, plot twists, and push behind her passion. From Black reader appreciation to crafting cinematic shootouts on the page. This is an author that reshapes the genre with every chapter. So get comfortable. We're here to step into the mind of A. Lewis, the mind behind the melody, the outlaw, and the fire. Please welcome the incredible, the unstoppable A. Lewis.
Listen, who is that? I'm like, hold on. Do I know that person?
We do this.
That was awesome. Thank you.
I tried. I tried. I tried. I
I was
tried.
like, oh, she sounds like a bad person, with
Mhm.
that pen.
I'm at to send it to you. I had to send it to you.
Yeah, you will have to send that to me.
Yeah.
That needs
So
to be the promo everywhere.
can I do a little clip? Do a little clip. Right. So today,
Music behind it.
yes. This is a very rare interview. Actually, my first time in all my years doing interviews, having not one but two books to discuss at one time. Right. So you have these two books. You show the people the books, please.
I sure can. So
Have our props. Boom! Look at that.
we have
Amazing.
Smoke, and then we have the Outlaw.
Feast your eyes on that. Take a gander. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So my first question is, what are some of the stories, books, or films that inspired you to craft these tales? What's some of the inspiration behind the stories?
Well, it's always my environment, right? And I love a good male character. I have brothers, I have sons. I recently sat down and counted how many uncles I have just by my dad and my mom alone. I think I got to 32 uncles, right? So I am always, and I have 8 brothers, I have 4 sons and a husband. And at one point, the cat and the dog were even male. So I've always been surrounded by a well group of male characters. And now I just get to write them. So my inspiration has always been the men around me, and my environment. So, but when it comes to the Smoke and Fire series,
Okay.
it was none of that. Honestly, I mean, the environment, yes. The male characters and some of their characteristics, yes. But actually, it was the book covers themselves. I knew from the book covers that I was going to write about assassins. Now, my story was completely different than the story that the characters gave me. Because I had these were pre-made book covers. I saw the image of the male on the character and I said, I want those. And what I did was I just changed the name, right? To fit or to suit what I was going to write. So in my mind, they were going to be hardcore gangsta, assassins who, that were cold-blooded and had no heart, right? If you were in the way and, the weapon had your name on it, you were going to get it. what the characters told me was there's a softer side of these men, and what they do out on the streets is not who they are when they're behind closed doors. And even though we don't get to really see the family dynamics until we get to book 2, there is one. And there is also a soft spot for both of these characters. And living a life that they do, they're vulnerable at this point in their careers and in their journey as men, that they want more for themselves. And I was happy that they had me change the narrative, because I think the narrative that I was going to spin on it was what I was comfortable with. And I think what they made me do was step out of my comfort zone and try something different.
So speaking of trying something different, for those that don't know, she is a multi-published author of a lot of work, and I've read some of her other works. But this is a whole new bag for you. Tell me, like, how scary or worried you was writing something way different, writing something far left.
I was scared. I was scared because even, and I told you behind the scenes, like, I was at a point in my life where I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to write anymore. And after my husband was just like, that's crazy talk. I'm gonna give you a couple days to get over yourself. He was like, but I know you, and quitting is not an option. You have more stories to tell. So I was like, okay, fine. A couple days, a week go by, and then I just, out of defiance, started typing, and I was angry typing. And I said, I hope out of this something great happens, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I just, I picked up the first 2 book covers that felt good to me, and it was it was Smoke and Fire. And I said, okay, I'm gonna write this story, and I'm angry typing. And by the time I'm done, I'm like, oh my goodness, I think this is kind of good. But it's not what I normally write. It's not giving you the trauma and the drama on page 1 like I normally would, right? It's not giving you the sexual tension on page 1 or in the first chapter. It was, I had created something to me that was so special that I allowed my characters to be a little bit more vulnerable. And I allowed them to really fall in love, which was dangerous because I don't write romance stories. And the way that it's written, you don't even miss the other elements that I normally give you in a story, because it's so fast paced and it keeps you engaged and you're caught up in this world that before you know it, you're like, hold on, wait a second. This can't be AA, or, oh my goodness, I need more of this story because, like, there's more. You just can't leave them like you did at the end of this. Like, we want more of these characters. And I was so scared to release that. I was hesitant. I even told my editor, I was like, hey, this is new. Like, please tell me if you like it or not, because I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. And one thing that my husband has always instilled in me is you write the story you would want to read. And after I reread this, I was just like, I would want to read this. Like, I could be proud of this story. And I was just like, stop being scared. Like, get a couple people together, show them what you got, get a new set of ARC readers and have them read it over, because this is new. So if it's somebody, and that's what I did. I took a group of readers who really, this was their first introduction to me. And they were like, we
Hey,
need more.
hey, that's
I
a hell of an introduction. That's
yeah,
a hell of an intro.
I did things completely different than what I would normally do in
Yeah.
the past, is because I'm on a different journey in my writing career. And I just thought, you know what, let's switch it up. Let's try something new. And this is what happened. And so far it's a hit. And I love the feedback that I'm receiving from the story.
So I don't want to spoil anything. Could you give the audience kind of like an elevator pitch or a synopsis of the book? I don't want to like mess around and accidentally spill any beans. So
I mean, if you spill a few, it would be perfectly okay because I do want people to read this. Now, it is an action-packed um rush. It's a good drama. It's two brothers, they're assassins. However, they don't live anywhere near each other. One lives in New York, Buffalo, New York, one lives in Michigan, right? And it's by design because if they're together, then they could easily, they're easily be uncovered, so to speak, in this world that they live in. um One brother makes one wrong move. He's on assignment, he's supposed to complete the assignment, and he doesn't. And then we see the consequences of not living up to the assignment and having to, make a call to tell your younger brother, whose name is Faye Adiole, or Fire, who is the complete opposite of Smoke, who is our main MC in the first book. His real name is Simi Adiole. And when Simi has to make that call to Faye, we know he's bringing the heat. And he's a little unhinged. But it's all for the purpose of coming to his brother's rescue. And it brings to mind, like, am I my brother's keeper? And these two brothers actually had that bond instilled by them by their father, who was also an assassin and a mercenary. So we get to watch their training, play out as their father had hoped it would if a situation like this ever arose. And I think it's so beautifully done. And in all of that, you get this eclectic group of characters that I bring together to help them accomplish their goal. There's some really solid villains in this story. um and we also have love interest. And the way the book reads, it's designed that when you get to those parts and you're like, okay, come on, kiss her. But if we were watching that movie, you'd be like, we ain't got time for that. Like, I give you all of the suspense and the thrill of the moment of watching some of these characters fall in love, and knowing that because the line of work and the danger they're in, we don't have time for that. So when we finally do get to those moments, it's so refreshing how it all plays out. Like, I don't even know how to describe this book. I know, Sean, you asked me, like,
I was gonna ask
what
you that next.
genre
How
is
would you
it?
categorize the book? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, it's an assassin, so it's drama, it's women's contemporary, it's romance thriller with some suspense. It's embodying all of the genres
Kind of had
or
that
the
forced
tropes that
proximity,
you
that the
want
forced
to.
proximity aspect to it. Yeah.
Yes, close proximity. Like, there's a list of tropes that you can literally go down, and this series touches on all of it. It's enemies to lovers in the second book. It's, who can we trust? Um not necessarily who they were kind of trope, not who you think they are kind of trope. There's so many things happening. But I think because of the way the story is written, you kind of forget that you're supposed to be looking for some of these things. I think you walk away having feeling like you've read something that was different, refreshing, and that you would want to read again.
Have you seen the movie Sinners yet? I know a lot of folks talking about Sinners here lately.
No, I haven't seen it because,
Oh,
but we are going to
friend.
see it this weekend
Okay.
because we've been so busy.
Yeah. Yeah. But the reason why I mention it is the movie Sinners in more than one aspect, but like it's a movie you can't really define.
Mhm.
So if you go to the movies expecting this big old vampire thing, like vampires are a part of it, but it's not really a vampire movie. If you
Right.
go there looking for just a love story, it is a part of it, but it's not. It's so many different things all done at one time,
But
and your
but that's
perspective is going to shape how you ingest it.
But don't you want that sometimes? Don't you want the element of surprise? Because you go in, trailers are misleading, they give you just enough to hook you. And then when you sit down, if it falls flat because it's not well written, you feel like you wasted your money. And all the great things that I've heard about Sinners, it's not to have an expectation, to go in there blind, right? And to enjoy, immerse yourself in what you are seeing, you are feeling, what you're hearing, so that you can really, get everything that's supposed to
No,
happen to you. That
that
full.
second aspect of Sinners you got to see, having your brothers in this tale,
Mhm.
and seeing the two brothers in Sinners, even though these guys are not twin brothers, but still the brother dynamic. Like you saying, am I my brother's keeper? What would I do for my brother's sake? What would I sacrifice for my brother? Things
Right.
like that.
Well, this is the second series that I've written about brothers. And I've been on this brother kick. Like, I have three more series to write about brothers, right? And the family dynamics. And even the Smoke and Fire are so different from the series I wrote and released a month ago, which was Uno and Dos. Those two brothers were completely different
Now,
than
time
what
out.
you're getting here. Uh-huh.
Wait a minute, AA. Don't just gloss over that for the audience. Let's slow this plane down a little bit. She's just released two books. Is that a month ago?
A month ago, yes.
A month ago, she released two publications. Now, what? Last week, a matter of days ago, she just released two more. It's four novels, 2 months.
Yes.
Crazy writing. Because then she wanted to quit writing, and then explodes on the tear of rattling off novels.
Well, I've had a couple months to sit here and write. And what I said to myself was, I don't want to procrastinate when it comes to the story anymore. What people don't know is sometimes I lose interest in my own stories, right? So after the first part is done, in my mind, I already know how the book ends. Getting me to write that out had been a task, right? Whether it was my health or, me just losing interest, I wasn't writing them out fast enough. And then I would lose interest and be like, okay, I'm on to the next. And I was okay with that. Now, I do know readers were highly upset with me because of that, right? What I said is, I don't want to put out a series if it's not complete. And when I put it out, I'm not going to stagger it. I'm going to give it all to you because I need to move on. Like, I'm on to the next thing. So once it's completed, been edited, proofread, and I'm good to go with it, it's coming to you. And you now get to decide if you want to read it or not. But it's there in its entirety. And the feedback that I've been receiving over the past 2 months is that readers are so happy and thankful that somebody is putting out the complete series. Like, they don't want to be teased. They don't want to wait 6 months.
You
At
know,
the rate that authors are putting out books, they tend to forget about it, and they don't want to forget about it. They want to support. They want to stay engaged around this story. So for me, this is the best way for me to operate, is to put out as much of or all of the series when possible,
yeah.
so that I can keep the reader engaged. I can finish that journey for them, and they can move on happily to the next series or, other author. I'm perfectly okay with that.
I guess it's kind of like the series on TV, right? It's always that age-old debate. Like, is it better whenever Netflix says, here you go, a brand new series, 10 episodes, take it. Or that whole week-to-week rollout, and you every week anticipating, man, next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, waiting for my show. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's
No,
just a
there's
matter of
no right
preference.
or wrong way of
Yeah.
doing it. You absolutely correct. But for me, I for me, like, this works. Like, I have figured out what my secret sauce is, so that, this works for me. And I love it, operating in this space, because I know that by continuously writing out the story, the series, the whole series, book after book, I'm not losing the emotional attachment that I have to these characters. I'm not losing their voice. Like, I think the way Smoke and Fire, the way they flow from one book to the other is a testament of that, right? I don't think that could have happened if I waited 6 months to write the rest of the story, because I've lost that momentum that I've gained with the first story. So I wanted to stay connected to the characters, and for me, and to be able to listen to the story the way they're telling it, not to make it be forced. Because I'm seeing also the results of waiting too long to release the second book in the series, and it felt forced when I was writing it, because I had lost a little bit of that authenticity of hearing the characters speak, and that momentum and emotional connection that I had with them before, trying to duplicate that, 5 or 4 years later. I'm like, does this even make sense? So, I don't want it to come across as, it could have been a better read. I want it to be like, oh my goodness, finally. And I feel like what the journey I'm on now, readers, they feel that. They feel the connection. It feels like a great read. They have more insight to the characters because I was able to develop them a little bit better, a little bit more. All of that. So it works for me. I don't know if it's going to work for everybody else, but for me, this works and I love it here now.
Let me ask you, you've done it more than one time. When you're doing this double book concept, do you
Mhm.
write like one big thing and then break it into two books? Or like you already in your mind knowing it's gonna be two separate things? Like how do you go about the actual process?
Well, I do know it's two separate books. And I sat down, I wrote and I'm not really one for an outline, but for this particular series, I knew I needed an outline, right? So I wrote the outline, and then I said, okay, so what's the second book? How do we get to a place where, I satisfy the reader and the characters' voices? So I wrote the outline again. And then after I wrote that outline, I was just like, hey, but it happened so quick in the series that like, what else is going on? And then, luckily the other characters started speaking. So I was like, oh, great, because I wasn't sure what else to expect. Like he comes to his brother's rescue. He did it what he was supposed to. I was like, I still got about 15 chapters left to go. What is happening here? So I think by doing it that way, it allowed me, again, it allowed the story to flow. So I knew where to stop in book one and where to pick up in book two.
Now I'm gonna say for my customer experience, I don't know if it was on purpose or subconsciously, but book one, to me, it felt different than book two. And so the two brothers, like one more calm, a little bit collective, other brother more like book two really read more. The pace was even more intensified in book two versus book one. Was that on purpose or it just
It,
happened? Or
it was because I think of how smoke moves, right? The literal smoke. If something is smoking and it's about to be ablaze, smoke is slow, it's deliberate, it's almost, it, it dances, right? It's like it's choreographed, it sneaks up on you, it lingers a little bit. So I wanted to show the difference in the two brothers, because Smoke is the cooler, more laid back, skilled marksman, right? He has a routine that he keeps. We introduce you to his dogs, Satan and and Zeus. Like, he has a strong routine, and he's so methodical. Like, nothing really bothers him until he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. And the having to call, nothing screams like drama, right? In a household full of brothers, is the big brother having to call the little brother, right? And knowing that the little brother is under the big brother's shadow, we know he's coming with the heat, right? We know he's a little unhinged. So when we get to the Outlaw and Fire Symphony, Fire is, he's that dude. He is coming in blazing. He is hot tempered, hot headed. everything about him is on fire, literally. Like, and knowing that in order to save his brother's life, he has to have restraint. We saw how hard it was for him to do that and to take order from somebody else. And then it was just like, you know what, let him loose. And once you let him loose, you see the chaos that he causes, the same as when the flame, the smoke becomes a fire. It's out of control. You can do your best to contain it, but without the right ingredients, it's just going to take over. And that's exactly, how fire lives up to his name. So I wanted it to creep up on you. I wanted to show one, that smoke had a sensitive side, and we get to see that even, throughout the book, when he's dealing with Melody, who is the female main character in the book. He's a little raw, but then he gets a little soft, and then he becomes more in tune to what's actually happening from their close proximity. um it's slow, it's sensual, and it's still packed with danger and action, and you kind of love that for him. Because the opening scene, he's unaliving somebody. So we go from rough and raw to a very sensual, emotional, and vulnerable side of him. Because now he's not just taking a life, he's trying to save one, and it's not just his own. And I thought that was powerful for us to see.
So I love character profiles in fictional books. Tell me about trying to build the character profile for these two brothers and what that process was like for you, building these guys out.
Well, first, I'll always start with any book. I start with the cover. So the cover needs to be up in front of me somewhere. And then I am a fan of AI imagery, right? Because I get to create what I think these characters look like, right? I give them the characteristics of who I think is talking to me. And I keep a library of AI imagery for that purpose. And recently I had just started sharing that with, inside the books, for the readers to see. Like when I say, his eyes were smoky dark, look at him right there, he looks like he has smoky dark eyes. I want you to be able to see that. And I know a lot of readers like to create their own imagery around these characters, which is fine. I'm
Yeah,
just giving you a glimpse
yeah,
into the world that I'm writing.
yeah.
This is how I see
I
them.
love the actual images. I love the images you post on your page. I love those images. I love it.
It helps me write. And from there, like that's how I develop. Because I'm like, well, tell me about yourself. And when they say, I always wear black. And I'm like, why do you always wear black? Well, why do you do this? Why do you hold your fork this way? Why when you walk down the street, you're always looking like as if it's a full circle. You know what's behind you, in front of you. If somebody stepped on the grass over here. Like there's all these little nuances that add to their characteristics and their development that they were able to show me, and I'm then able to put that in the imagery that I give you for the characters. That's how it starts. And then every once in a while something else will sneak in as I'm writing, because I'm like, oh my goodness, really? Like, I would have never took you for a lefty, but I'm happy you telling me that, because or you're you can use both hands. I'm like, hold on, I didn't know that about you. So you like you holding weapons and you going guns a blazing. Like those little things to me are so important, because when I do the character build out into this world, I'm literally starting from scratch, just from the book cover and a very weak outline. And then I go in and I'm like, after I figure out exactly who I'm talking to and who I'm supposed to be, because I write these characters, especially Smoke's character. He's the only point of view in that story. And that's so not like me. I am a multi point of view person when writing, and to stay and be him, I had to become this man, to talk like this man, to look around at the male influences and be like, right now I think he's Uncle Number Six, right? With a mix of D. How do I make him sound like that? How does he move? What does his footsteps look like? Like all of those mannerisms, I start to build out. And then hopefully by the time I'm done and I've written a story, the image that I give you and the detail in the story, they all match up perfectly.
So you mentioned weaponry and both guns blazing. Of course, me being the classical guy that I am, I love action. I love shoot 'em up, bang bang, car explosions, fight scenes, and all that. I always tell people, in my opinion, I think writing a good fight scene and like love making scenes are two of the hardest things to do. To convey all this motion and inner dialogue on paper.
Mhm.
Tell me about the elements of writing a good action sequence. Like what's that
Man,
like for you?
I watched so many movies. Like I literally was watching I watched The Accountant. I watched John Wick. I watched The Heist. I was like, okay, give me action. What are they doing? And one of the best advice that I've received, that even like I forgot about this part, right? um Author mentor of mine told me to stay in the scene. Do not leave the scene before the characters do, right? So sometimes when we're typing, the hands are going and the mind is going, and you're already at the end of the chapter without staying to see what's happening with the characters. How did they move? Does this make sense? And a lot of times I would literally stand up and be like, if this is truly the scene, right? Which way did his body turn? If I'm running down the stairs and then I go and I went to the stairs in the house and I was like, okay, count the stairs. Is this feasible for them to get down and get out the door before somebody gets up the stairs? Like all of these little details had to make sense. And D and the boys, they would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, counting stairs, because I'm about to, I need you to run down the stairs and then I need you to tell me how you feel. Because me being asthmatic, I don't want to do that. But if I have to, I will. But it was the commitment to staying in the scene. Do not leave the scene before the characters do. And as a theater major, that was something that I always did. And I forgot how important it was to make sure you do that as an author, as a writer. And doing that, just going back to that basic step, I think the action scenes made sense. Like, could you, if someone, you come to an opening in a room where that somebody could be potentially behind that opening and you're on the opposite wall, like how does that chemistry work when you go into combat? Like, what foot do you step with? What hand, is available? All of that matters when you're writing action scenes. And I literally was in here acting it out because I was like, stay in the scene, figure out if
That's
this works.
good. That's
I
good.
was like,
That's
okay, it
good.
works. I think it
Yeah,
works.
that's
We can
good. 'Cause
continue.
as a lifelong martial law guy and a boxing fanatic, and then being an ex-military guy, when I'm reading certain books like that or movies like that, it's like, come on, man. Like, that would have never happened. Like the John Wick movies, I love them so much because in John Wick, he's not just shooting like unlimited. He's
Right.
literally shooting and the gun run out. He got to
Right.
find another clip to reload. Like mid gunfighting, he reloading, unloading. Like that would really happen in a gunfight. I
And
love that detail in the actual movie. Like I'm glad they put that in there.
the
That's what would happen.
realism in the
Yeah,
scene matters. And
yeah,
you're right. A lot of times we're like, that would never.
yeah. Like come
Okay, I get it. I get it. We write this for show, but that, come on. And I did not want that to happen here. Like, I was it gonna be a happily ever after? Yeah, but we had to get there first. And no, there needed to be some elements of realism. Like what happens when there is a love interest and you let your guard down, right? Just a little bit in your line of work. You're going to get caught up in some situations. And I wanted that to show in the book. You live a dangerous life, right? There is no way you just it's scot free. Like you let your guard down a little bit. You're vulnerable.
Yeah.
So you are gonna slip up. I wanted that human side of these characters to come through too.
So let's not leave it out. So we don't miss this. They got some dangerous ladies in these books too.
We have
We got some bad women in these books. So tell me about the creation of the female characters.
Well, Melody. So let's go back because when I look at Smoke, a Hitman's Melody, right? In my mind, when I first saw the book cover and I gave him that title, right? The melody was supposed to be the sound of his weapon going off. It was never supposed, yes, it was magical. It was creating musics, right? It was so poetic. That's what I was going for. He was like, no, it's about that girl that I was supposed to, unalive. And I was like, what? So even the way I thought about, okay, Melody, she has to be bad then, right? She just can't be anything if this man is willing to risk it all. So, like, what can I give to her, right? And there were parts of her that I wanted her to be naive to the world that she lived in. That was her safety net for herself. She's in an arranged marriage. She wants it to be about love, but she understands it's contractual. Like, what does a woman like that? How does she carry herself? How does she move and stay safe? And I gave her that vulnerability, and how being naive to the world that your husband does operate in, how it got you in this situation to begin with. Like, she couldn't be too street smart and she couldn't be too relaxed. So I gave, in thinking about Melody, she had to be a looker, she had to be stunning, but she also had to have some smarts about her. So I wanted to make sure that I delivered on that. Now we got to Symphony. Again, Fire Symphony, like the Outlaw Fire Symphony. Symphony was supposed to be, again, about the weapon of choice and the music it made. And he out there conducting assassinations. That was my mindset. But Symphony is also an assassin, one of the best. So much so that Fire actually, he says, if I go in to, help my brother, I know I can't do it alone. I have to have this woman by my side, right? But the chemistry between them was so toxic and and fiery, right? That how was that gonna work? She was a force all her own. Like, she could do just as much damage as the men could. Even in her description, when I chose that character image for her fiery red hair, like, I thought it complemented exactly who she was, and the fact that she goes up against fire quite a few times. Like, she's not afraid to go there. So having her be an asset and an equal in every way in this story, to me, it had to. Like, I was like, her name is Symphony. And when you think of the two, Melody and Symphony, they're supposed to be such calming words or descriptions, right? And these women are anything but. And I love that for them, because they are creating the melody of their own in this world that they live in.
Yes, yes, for sure. Now, next, I gotta ask this question. I don't want to assume for the audience to assume anything. I want to go ahead and say it. Your husband, D. Lewis, is an amazing audio narrator. He's a narrator for our book last year, Acting on Your Dreams and Visions. He did a phenomenal job, even doing my part of the book, which I was impressed. Like, I don't know what for somebody to narrate my crazy behind the scenes. And he did a standout job with that. Can we expect to see these two books narrated by D. Lewis?
Well, so this is the thing. D is gonna narrate Smoke, the Smoke, the Hitman's melody. He is gonna do that, but he cannot be Fire. So I have already, and this is the first time anybody done it. So if you paid attention to the trailers that I put out for the book, the original trailers for the book told you who the narrators for Smoke and Fire were going to be. So it is going to be D. Lewis and Miles Washington is going to be Fire. Already on the books, people. Already on the books.
Any guesstimation on we could expect that when to look out for that?
Oh, not until early part of 2026.
Okay, okay.
Everybody is so booked up. Like I am
Yes.
the last project on the books for the
Mhm,
year, people.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I was like, no, get me in. Get me
Yeah,
in because
yeah.
like I need to hear you guys bring these two characters to life.
So let's talk about the more of the business of books, right? So here lately in the book universe, there's a lot of talk about like black authors and traditional published authors and them not necessarily getting the visibility or the marketing or the push that other people get in the mainstream. And we in the self-published universe. I never want to have like a versus conversation, really, but like, what's your thoughts on what's going on with the publishing industry when it comes to black people here lately?
Well, it's you know what? We are in an industry that was never designed for us. So you have to remember that. Um, we are when you look at the five main publishing houses, um, are still rooted in slavery. And what I mean by that is some of these houses and go back to the time of slavery, right? They are some of the first to publish documents and manuals and pamphlets, um, things that we were not, our ancestors were not supposed to ever be able to read. So the fact that we've advanced to this part or in time where we're out here actively reading and writing stories for our community, they still haven't caught on. They're still saying, yeah, you can do it, but we won't support it. Yeah, we might bring you on, but there's little to no budget to actually promote your stuff. Yeah, we might give you a budget, but we won't give you a team. There's always these caveats that they put, in our way, even when they do sign on to us or signed us to their labels, or I shouldn't say labels because now it sounds like I'm talking about the music industry. Sign us to their
Same different potato,
same
potato,
thing,
same.
sign us to their companies, it's always, with the second thought. We're never the priority. And it's sad because we are a multi-billion dollar industry. And I know that because when it comes to audiobooks, the people who are producing audiobooks have caught on really well to the fact that we're a multi-billion dollar industry. And they do everything they can to capitalize on that, and they don't care not one iota about audiobooks or our stories. And we know that because they continue to put out subpar audiobooks and get rich off of us. Like everybody else is understanding that collectively we're a powerhouse for this industry. We're probably one of the biggest genres when we talk about black authors in the indie space, one of the collective biggest categories pushing the industry forward. Every day there's a new author. Every day there's, maybe 20, 30, 40, 100, 200 new books being uploaded. I don't know, but I do know it's a lot. And I know every day some of these bigger entities make billions off of us. Do I think it's unfair? Absolutely. Do I think that we need more education on how to navigate the industry better? Absolutely. Do I think we need to stop gatekeeping? Yes. Do I think that, can we use these other entities to move forward, yes, but we have to be smart about how we do it. Like, and that is just wanting everybody to win. I want everybody to get, paid for their wonderful stories and their creativeness, but I want you to do it and be able to not be so dependent on these entities, because at the end of the day, they're never going to have our best interest at heart. Like, it's always an afterthought, and I refuse to believe that our stories come second to anybody. Like, there's a place, in this world for us to exist, and the sooner they acknowledge that and pay for it, the sooner everybody can win. And if they don't want to do this, then we have to start creating platforms and
Yeah.
circles and entities that allow us to win.
Yes, yes, yes. And back to everybody winning, let's transition to your Black Reader Appreciation events, right? So for the past few years, you've hosted your Bray events.
Mm-hmm.
I've been blessed to be a part of them multiple times as a participant, as a moderator for panels, things of that nature. Tell us about the creation of this event, and can we expect one this year?
Um, well, first of all, Bray is the gift that keeps giving, because it's been able to put some connect readers to authors and authors to readers, and to extend opportunities well beyond, that 1 week of engagement that, we have for Bray. Um I love that there's momentum. I love that there's a community around it. Um and Bray is going to keep evolving. Even this year, there will be a Bray. I am going to change some things up, but I'm more so around evolving the platform. Is I want to do more in-person events. So I've started partnering with, some book influencers and authors and event hosts, so that we can create events where all genres are welcome. And that's the premise of Bray, is making sure that we have representation for all genres to exist, for all authors to be able to connect with readers despite what they write. Because I do believe there's a reader out there looking for everything, even nonfiction. We have to be able to, get over um being exclusive, right? We need to be more inclusive, especially during this day and time that we're living in, because they're trying to restrict our voices, period. So why, when we band together, we're much more of a force. And I think Bray has proven just how forceful we can be. Because when you talk about being in over 38 countries last year,
Come on.
41
Come
countries
on. Come on.
actually.
Talk some numbers. Talk some
Yeah,
numbers. Talk some numbers
listen,
too.
and
Talk some numbers.
reaching 2.5 million readers, and having, over a million downloads for books. Like, we're reaching the reader in a more organic fashion. And for me, we still have to do that, because I received like maybe January sometime, I received an inbox, and it was written in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. I understand French. Don't ask why. But but I hit the translate on, the message, and it was my Afro Latina sisters and the reading community in Brazil, and they were telling me how they don't have representation of Black authors down there. She showed me the bookstore, and it's all this depiction of Latinos just being one way. And she was like, if ever there's an opportunity, we found you because of Bray. Like, and we were able to download so many books and enjoy them. But like, we want you guys in our bookstores down here. Like, hearing that message, I was just like, what? Like, what? Wait a minute, my Afro Latina sisters and brothers, we coming, right? I don't know how to make that work, but My goal, like I said, my goal is to transition from the virtual world. But as long as I have readers saying stuff like that to me in my inbox, there'll always be some form of a virtual event. But I
Yeah,
want us to do more in-person events, because I
right.
think it's time. Giving away books for free takes a lot for an author, right? And there has to be a lot given back in return, in the way of reviews, the page counts, all of these good things. I just don't want the books to sit on your TBR or in your Kindle and go unread. I want you to pick it up, show these authors some love, and, do what you do, right? But I think if we're in person, you actually can get the hard copy of the book. You can actually sit and talk to me and have a conversation behind the story. We can hug. We could be one big family. You could get your hard copies signed. We could have a good family reunion, family gathering around the books. And I think that is just as important too, is to be around your peers in the present. So I think Bray's evolving. So we're doing some things differently. But yes, to answer your question, there will be an event this year.
Yes, yes, and yes. And to round out the project, you showed me one day a lot of book covers. You have so many projects in the canon just waiting to be published. So what can we expect as far as your up and coming projects? Have any expectations on rollouts, dates, anything we can hear?
Well,
You don't mind
well,
sharing?
no, I don't. So it looks like um every month to the end of the year there'll be at least one book out from me. And it's because I had already written it. They've
You
already been
said
written.
every month from now to the end
Every
of the
month.
year.
I believe so.
Wow.
I believe so. So next month we have the Eminem Chronicles, the Married Men Chronicles Volume 2 comes out. I don't have a date for that yet. It is back with the editor and the proofreader as we speak. Um, so you can look forward to that. Um, June. I have Oh, that's June. That's June. That's next month. So July, there's two books coming out. I have the last book in the proposal series, the sub coming out. And I also have an exclusive release because I am one of the authors being featured in the Literary Gem Awards. And this year theme was HBCU University. So we created a fictitious university, because the event is going to take place on, I think, the Clark University campus. So we're down in Atlanta. So I have, it's called Blake, the Blake University HBCU Chronicles. I have a story that I did exclusively for that. So those two books will be coming out in July. August, I have a true romance book coming out called Unmatched, for my partnership with the ICU literary experience that's happening in Detroit. And that'll be August 23rd. So I have that book coming out. And then September, October's release is the highly anticipated Whistler, which is my first paranormal erotica full length story. And I'm currently writing this one, and this baby is over 70,000 words already. So it's gonna be a thickum. But it's so good, y'all. It's so good. And I have been reading it in my Louisiana Southern accent. I can't get out of it because that's where the book takes place.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I want to be a beta. I want to be a beta for this. I need
For
to use
that
some of
one,
that. I want some of that beta work. Yeah.
I got you. I got you because this book is so good. Like, after I go back and read a couple chapters, I'm like, I wrote that. This is so good. And then I have a Naughty November release coming out. And then I think December's release is the Just Read Almanac Series 2026. I have a short story in that anthology. So every month for the rest of the year, there is something coming out for me. And I don't think it's all gonna be for every reader, but you can pick and choose what you want to read from me. I think you'll be surprised at the diversity that comes across in my writing.
Well, with so many projects coming between now and December, you could definitely come on back anytime you want.
You have me on. You can have me on. Yes, you let me know.
I
You're
got
the reader
you.
when you're done
The
reading.
doors of the church is open. The doors are
Listen,
open.
but when I give you the Whistler, I
Yeah,
definitely want to come back because
yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that
Okay.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, let's speak on back to Sinners for a little bit. Talking about black people in the paranormal space and black people in thriller and horror genre, stuff like that.
Hmm.
All the things that Jordan Peele has been doing for years since Get Out and Us and all these different things. Now Ryan Coogler.
Hmm.
Uh tell us about the importance of black people that we've always had in this space.
Um, we have always known that our stories um had a space or a place in this genre, right? Now, I don't know if it's because of Christianity that we held back, because the majority of us may have been brought up thinking that it's wrong, it's devil work, right? But when we get past the fact that Christianity, before Christianity, we all had a religion. We may not have known what it is, and we may not have tapped into it, that allowed us to have a different sense of spirituality, right? So we can't say that, to me, I can't say, I don't speak for everybody, but I speak for me. I can't say that it's demonic. I can't say that it's, this is paranormal, is taboo. I can't say any of that. What I can say is, at some point we've heard the urban tales, we've heard the folklore around some of these stories. There has to be some truth written in it somewhere, right? If we can believe in an angel, we certainly can believe in something darker. The fact that we are now able to voice that and be so creative with how we're doing it, it just tells me that there's an audience for these stories. um it, it's okay, it's okay to examine uh your beliefs. It's okay to immerse yourself in a side of fantasy that is so unreal to you that it becomes real, because it's written in such a way that it beautifully displays just how diverse we truly are, right? It's okay. It's okay to experience that. It's just like I would tell anybody who's reading a romance book. It's okay to fall in love, or to have, you know, to overcome trauma, to be vulnerable, and watch these characters love so that you can experience love, right, through the eyes of someone else. This is what storytelling is at its finest. That's what griots are. That's where our culture is rooted in great storytelling. When you think of Anansi the Spider, when you think of Edgar Allan Poe, these are all elements of storytelling. I think for some reason we've gotten away from, it's not taboo. It's an experience, and we need to allow ourselves to have these experiences, and stop giving everything these derogatory this descriptions or
Right.
depictions, that are kind of like vomited on us by other people that are not like us.
And for us, so many parts of our everyday life is an element of horror anyway to most people, right? Because I read a good article last night about this, and she was talking about, like, if you're the only black woman at a pool party and getting your hair wet is a moment, right? Me being the guy, I work at night. Every night I drive to work, I drive home in the morning, and it's still dark.
It's a
Like
scary story.
any given police vehicle on the road when I'm driving could be a whole different night for the most
Sean,
simple stop.
the
That's a
reason
scary thing.
the
I
reason
don't need I
why
don't
I'm
need Freddy
not
Krueger,
controlling.
Jason, Mike. I don't
Yeah,
need Michael Myers. These
yes.
regular everyday things in my life. I'm
My
saying that
Michael
I can't just pull up
Myers,
right now.
my
The
Michael
regular
Myers
thing is
sits
scary.
in a car with lights and has a badge and the freedom to do whatever he wants. He does not reside in my nightmares when I close my eyes.
It's not imagination.
It he is right in front of me. Like, we have to get over what the definition of, what we perceive to be scary really is, because the reality is our country right now is a scary place to be. And I'm just like, I don't understand how me picking up something that's paranormal is is going to harm me any more than what's outside my front door.
For my friends that are genuinely scared of horror movies, I tell them movies like Get Out and Us and the series Them and the Candyman, for example.
Hmm.
Those are more social justice movies
Right.
than horror movies.
Right.
Those are more real black social justice,
But
our everyday tragedies more than, a scary movie.
but Sean, you would have to be able to go into it with an open mind, right? And we're so closed off right now that it again, I don't know what's causing it. I'm not here to stir up controversy. But I
Hey, it's my show. We can do that. Do it. Say what you're
no,
gonna say.
because
Say
no,
what you're gonna say.
like, I think we've been so indoctrined to think one way, and it has to be the right way and the only way. It keeps us blinded sometimes to what's really going on. And like you said, those are social conscious movies more so than horror movies. If you go in it thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be bad, it's demonic, it's this, it's that. If you're going in it with your eyes closed and only thinking of it one way, that's all you're going to get out of it. Sometimes you need to go into, and this is where this is what I love about writing this journey that I'm on right now. I don't have a I don't have an opinion one way or the other about the stories that I give the readers. Like, and what I mean by that is I loved it first, right? And that's all that matters. Once I give it to you, it's yours to enjoy. If you do, that's great. If you don't, I'm okay with that. Like, but I need to go into that with my eyes open, knowing that not everything I write is for everyone. Like, some people will have loved Uno and Dos, but hate Smoke and Fire, and vice versa. Or, this might be the first introduction and they to me and they love this and are disappointed by everything else that I write. It's perfectly okay to feel that way, but you have to have your eyes open in order to appreciate the skill set that's there. I do that for you. I don't need you to do it for me. Like, I've given you my babies. I'm perfectly okay with the outcome of that. And I think once you live your life in a way that says, I'm not going to have preconceived notions about any of this. It is what it is. I'm going to go in it with my eyes open. I'm going to take from it what I can, and then I'm going to apply it to myself one way or the other. Either I didn't like it or I did like it. I learned something or I didn't learn enough. But there is always something that you can learn from anything, any experience that you're in. It just depends on how closed off your mind is.
And with that being said, I will conclude with a quote by the great philosopher Bruce Lee. When he said, absorb what is useful and discard what is not, and make something uniquely your own. Love that quote.
Love that.
And with that being said, this is tonight's Sean P. Experience. It's always an honor and a pleasure to have A.A. Lewis on the show every time I can. She will be back. I'm calling her right now. She will be back later on in the year,
I will.
right? And
I will.
also, anybody watching this, share it out, like, subscribe, comment on the show, and hit the notification bell. I got some shows lined up. It'll be a hot summer. I got about 5 shows in June. I got about 3 or 4 shows already booked in July. The summer gonna be hot. So coming up, I got the social media phenom, Cree Miles on the show on the 2nd. And I have Dr. Uche Blackstock, her book Legacy, about being a Black physician. She'll be on the 5th. So
wow.
come on, tap into the show, the Sean P Experience. Thank y'all very much. Peace.
Thank you.